Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to the TCEC season 15. So in this season we have the top engines again playing. We have Lila C0, Stockfish, two Komodo engines, and this is really a great show that the top engines are performing. Today I wanted to show you some brutal stuff played by Stockfish against Komodo. So in this game Stockfish crushed Komodo in 20 moves, although the game was continued, but Stockfish left here Komodo with no counterplay after 20 moves. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable line played by Stockfish, really creating this pawn storm you'll see in the continuation of the video. Huge enormous attack here by Stockfish, by the top engine. So in the season 14 we saw that Stockfish won the direct game against Lila C0, and in this season Lila C0 and Stockfish also are in front of the other top engines. So as said, after this season is finished, we will then have a super final, and I think we'll have again have a clash against Lila C0 and Stockfish. So let's see now Stockfish brilliancy. It was really something else, because Stockfish is not allowing to go here in sort of a positional game. Stockfish searches really for this tactical lines, for this deep tactical lines, and as said, crushed here Komodo after 20 moves. So we have here d4 played by Stockfish. Komodo answered with d5. We have c4, the Queen's Gambit. We have the Queen's Gambit declined, the Slav defense, knight on c3, knight on f6, and now e3. This is the preparation to go into the fast developments. We have seen in this Lila c0 game this knight on f3, which transpose after d takes c4 into the so-called check variation of the Slav defense. Now Stockfish searches for fast development with the move e3, of course. After d takes c4 we can capture with the bishop, and in some occasions this is sort of a strategical idea here by black, to allow after d takes c4 and bishop takes on c4 the bishop to take, and then create at least some tempos with moves as b5, then after the a6, and try to create a pawn breakthrough here with c5. So here g6 played by Komodo, and there is this line also with potential h4 moves, creating already a flank attack here, because this knight is a little bit too overloaded with the defense of the d5 square, and also with this h5. But here Stockfish goes in, as said, simple development, knight on f3. We have bishop on g7, and now bishop on e2, and now we have this d takes c4 idea. Bishop takes on c4, and maybe here the best way for Komodo would have been to go b5, but we have also maybe some tactical possibilities with bishop on f7. So that's why here Komodo decided first to castle, and also castling here played by Stockfish. Bishop on f5, and this is now the idea to simplify the position here by Komodo, going knight on e4 after a trade of knights, maybe on e4, go with the bishop here on d5, and really challenging this bishop on c4, and try to create sort of a positional trade of pieces on d5, because then this bishop would be a weakness here by white, because this bishop would have been blocked out by its own pawn. So that's here Komodo's idea. So that's why here h3. Stockfish is not allowing these simplifications. You'll see Stockfish goes really straightforward with after knight on e4 we have g4. Brutal move already. It's move 10, really a little bit also weakening here the position in front of white's king, but this is how Stockfish plays the game. Stockfish goes simply forward here after knight on c3, b takes c3, and now bishop on e4. The idea, of course, now to play the move d5, bishop on d5, and after potential trades of the bishops after c takes d5, here maybe to create sort of weakness and backward pawn in black's position on c3. But again, Stockfish is not allowing any simplifications. It's now move 12, knight on g5, really attacking the bishop. The bishop is a little bit lost here around the white's pieces. Bishop on d5, and of course we're not taking here the bishop on d3, and here queen on a5 was played by Komodo. This is of course an attack on the pawn on c3, and here Stockfish responded with bishop on d2 and with the preparation to play the move c4, creating a double attack on the queen and the bishop, and it will be game over. So that's why here e5. Here now c4 is not possible so far, because then you get queen on d8, and if you take, we can take the knight, and if you try something like e4, then you get queen on h4 with a direct attack on the h3 pawn. This could be a problem, so you have to react, and meanwhile you have liberated really the position here for the bishop. So that's why here after e5 Stockfish goes e4, attacking the bishop. Now h6 was played by Komodo, creating a counter attack. Knight on f3, and now bishop on e6. And now it's move 17. Now Stockfish finds brutal idea in the middle game, creating a huge pawn storm here in the center. After knight takes on e5, bishop takes on e5. Here Stockfish doesn't react. Here Stockfish doesn't take the bishop on e5, plays simply f4. Look at this pawn structure now in the center. We have now 6 pawns attacking Black's king. Disadvantage of the piece is not so important so far, because Black hasn't developed the knight and the rook so far, so that's why here the pawn storm is really possible. Very nice move. And if you try something like after bishop on g7, after f5, if you try to escape with the bishop, you see Stockfish creates another tempo. Then you get a very annoying move, f6. You have to retreat with your bishop, and then you get e5. And now you see these bishops are aiming really on the king side. This h6 is basically unprotectable, because we can push maybe h4, h5 if the king defends this g6 with king on h7. If you try something like knight on d7, we can simply play queen on e2. And if you try to fix the position, then you get queen on a4, and it's basically game over here. So unbelievable stuff in move 17 here. After knight on e5, we have bishop takes on e5, and now f4. Bishop on g7, as said, and now f5. And here Komodo reacted with knight on d7, leaving this bishop hanging. And of course, in the next move here, Stockfish can simply take the bishop. But Stockfish simply develops the queen, finishing the development. And now after rook on e8, simply taking f takes e6. The rook takes on e6 was played, and now let's evaluate the position. It's now move 21, and here I don't see any counterplay anymore for Black, because after e5 we have now a fixed position in the center. Basically what we have to do is maybe somehow just weaken here the pawn structure around the king, and these bishops are too deadly here for Black. The rook is on an open file. We can simply play also doubling up rooks here on the f file. Huge attack here. Komodo is really left without counterplay even in an early stage of the game. Unbelievable. Here the evaluation is already winning for white. Stockfish played this game with one simple inaccuracy and without mistakes and blunders. Here Komodo was really crushed in an early stage of the game. b5 was played, but it's too late now, this queenside attack, because you can simply fix the position, fix Black's attack with the move a4, like Stockfish played in the game. B takes a4, but it's really not a problem, because we lost a pawn here. Here we have now 3 weak pawns, 3 pawn islands, and in some moves of course we can recapture this pawn on a4, but it's not something that you have to worry. This pawn is really not mobile, and it's not a threat. Still we are continuing the game with this bishop pair and a huge attack on Black's king. Bishop on c4 was played, attacking the rook. Rook on e7, and now rook on f2, doubling up the rooks on the f file. Knight on b6, and of course bishop on a2, continuing the game on this very important diagonal. And here Komodo's idea was to play knight on d5, at least block out this bishop, because this bishop is really dangerous here on this f7 square. Queen on e4, and you cannot capture here the pawn on c3. This was a tricky move by Stockfish, because then you get queen on g6, and if you take the bishop on on a2 in order to attack the queen, because of course you couldn't take because of the bishop here with the pin on the king. Here you get rook on f7 with an immediate checkmate threat on g7, so that's why you're forced to take the rook, and then you simply lose the queen. Here the bishop, the knight on a2 is also out of game because the bishop is controlling the c3, and this is of course game over here for black. So that's why after queen on e4, rook on d8, queen on d8 was played, and now rook from a to f1. Now we have all of the pieces on the most active squares. This bishop is really aiming on the king. This bishop is also very well. We have a battery on the f-file. The queen is centralized. The pieces are, as I said, on the most active squares, and it's really nice positional play here by Stockfish. Rook on b7. Now we have queen on c2, attacking this a4 pawn. Queen on h4, and now of course rook on f3. Although the queen is active now, but the queen doesn't have any support by any other pieces, so it's basically protectable. After h5 here, Stockfish simply took g takes h5, and now queen takes on h5. Still we don't have troubles around the king, although we have only one pawn in front of the king, but these rooks are also offensive pieces. They're also defensive pieces around white's king. You'll see in the continuation that Stockfish defended very well with his rooks, and could create also an attack with its other pieces. Queen takes on a4. Now we gain back the material. We have the pawn back, but it's really not about pawns here anymore. Too much activity of white's pieces. Rook on c8 was played. Now rook on f2, and now queen on h4. Queen on a6, rook from c to c7, and now bishop on c1, improving the position of the bishop. Maybe also trying to transpose it on a more active diagonal. King on h8, and now queen on e2. We can basically play anything with what we want here, because all of the black pieces are really paralyzed. They don't have good squares to create counterplay. a5 was played by Komodo, and now queen on h2. Rook on e7, and now queen on a6, and now rook from e to c7. And now this is maybe the only slightly inaccuracy here by Stockfish. Rook on g2 was played here. Stockfish could have played immediately queen on a8, forcing the king to go on h7, and maybe go around with moves as queen on e8, going behind in the attack, because if you try rook on e7, then you can capture the c6 pawn. You see, although black has taken also the b file, you cannot really infiltrate into position because these bishops are covering the squares b3, b2, and b1. So these rooks are really helpless. They're basically only defensive pieces for black here. So that's why here, as said, slightly maybe inaccuracy, but here rook on g2 still continuing the game with a completely winning position. We have queen on e7, and now h4. You cannot of course take because then you get rook on h3, so you lose the queen. Here Komodo tried bishop on e5. Komodo tried here to grab 3 pawns for the bishop. Of course, d takes e5, queen takes e5, king on g1 was played. But okay, we have here queen on e1, rook on f1, and now queen takes on c3. We have now 3 pawns for the piece, but it's in too open game. You see the king on h8 is really naked. Here the bishop's still aiming, the rooks are still on active files, although we have 2 pass pawns here, but they're not connected, which is the most important thing. They're not connected. They cannot create, at least for now, any dangerous threats with some promotions. The bishops are covering all of the squares, and here I think the bishop sacrifice was not a good continuation by Komodo. Queen on a8 finally now played king on h7, and now queen on f8, going behind, really attacking, annoying stuff now for black to handle here with the queen on f8. Queen on d4, king on h1. Again, you cannot take, pointing you out. Then you get rook on h2, again losing the queen. Queen on g7, and then when you're playing actively, you don't want to lose your attacking pieces, so you don't want to trade it off also. So that's why queen on d1, again queen on d8. Here rook on d7, and now queen on g5. Very nice move. Now with the preparation maybe to play here h5. So that's why f6, kicking away the queen. Here we have queen on g3, staying on this very important diagonal. Here rook on b5, and now bishop on c4, again creating a tempo on the rook. Rook on b4, and now bishop on d3. This is now important because we are now on this very annoying diagonal, again threatening the king on h7. If you try something now, rook and b3, of course you lose simply the rook. It's game over then. So you see, also discovered attacks are possible. Here after bishop on d3, that's why king on h8 was played, getting out of this very annoying diagonal. And now bishop on g6 played by Stockfish. Knight on e7, attacking the bishop, but now h5, fixing really the position around this bishop. Now rook from d to d4 was played, and now bishop on b2. This check on h4 that was played by Komodo is also not something that you have to worry. Here simply king on g1, and now knight on g8. Rook from f2, f2. Now rook on b2 was played, but it's basically game over. Rook on b2, and after rook on b4 in this position, Komodo resigned, because after h6 here it's game over. If you try queen on b7, you can get checkmated in 6 moves, because now bishop on e4, preparing the battery here on the like square diagonal. If you try knight on h6, then you get queen on g6, queen on a7, but now king on h1. If you try f5, we can simply play queen on f6. If the king moves here, we can simply takes. Now here queen on g6, king on h8, and here king on g8. It's checkmate. So as said, very strong play here by Stockfish, leaving Komodo without counterplay after 20 moves. Unbelievable stuff. I'm really glad to see these games, because they're really something else. And I hope again for a final in the season 15 between Lila C0 and Stockfish. We had 100 games. It was likely win by Stockfish. Maybe Lila has improved. We will see. So far they're taking the lead, both of them with same points after 10 rounds. And let's see the continuation of this very nice tournament by the top engines. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games played by computers, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see regular fellers playing the game with some best rook sacrifices, queen sacrifices that were played in chess history. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.